and thank you for joining me again on Rihanna Roach Radio. Today, I am doing another episode of Share Your Story, and today we have Nick from Apex Masculinity, which I'm really excited to have a chat with you, Nick, today. So thank you for joining me, Nick. If you would like to introduce yourself, we'll jump right in.
Yeah, okay, cool. So my name is Nick Chontos, and I am an author and podcaster and public speaker pertaining to topics around healthy masculinity.
Beautiful.
Something I got into back in 2019 after several years of self-work.
Mm-hmm.
And as the self-work was a result of me being, if I can just, I use this term with love and respect because I'm talking about myself, but an absolute bottom feeder.
Okay.
As it relates to being a man.
And what do you mean by bottom feeder, Nick?
Absolutely. So, I mean, 8-year meth addiction, 2 trips to prison, kids out of wedlock, relationships didn't work out, and now someone else is raising my kids, homeless, living under a bridge.
Yeah.
Like, very impulsive, just a broken man, basically, a broken man, no confidence. But the second time in prison, I kind of had and I know there's different varieties of people that'll listen to this, but for my story, for me, a bit of a religious wake-up call is kind of what started things for me. And I felt like I got a clean slate, let's say it that way, and got out of prison, and I was attending a church. I met my wife. Prior to meeting her, I was single and celibate for 2 years, kind of just learning how to be a man all over again, or from scratch, really, how to stay sober, how to hold a job for more than 3 months, how to get my own place and pay bills, how to deal with my own impulsive behavior, money,
so
things
that 2 years, Nick, it sounds, I mean, I feel it's really important to be celibate or to be single, both, while you're doing self-work for at least a little while. And it sounds like during that time, you were teaching yourself how to be a man.
Yeah. Yes, I had some great mentors in my life at the time. And where it gets kind of funny, though, is even though I was on a better trajectory, I was around better people, I was living a completely different life than what I had been living. I kept noticing this uncanny knack to pull a pin on a hand grenade and throw it into my own lap every time things started to go well, or when they would hit a certain level of success. I would do something, some causal effect that would tear my life apart and bring me back down to this known, comfortable area on the bottom.
Yeah.
And I started to realize that although the church I was going to and the people I was around was great for me, that type of environment wasn't addressing a part of me that seriously needed to be addressed. So I grew up in a very, very abusive home. Both my stepfather and my mother, with their words, with their hands, emotional abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse, like beaten down, like basically a verbal and physical punching bag for people that had no patience and no control of their own emotions. And the words, I think, was worse than the physical abuse in the sense that it began to tear down the very fabric of my confidence, my self-esteem, my self-worth, my self-image, all of that. And through the self-work that started later, I realized that belief always affects behavior. So if you believe you're no one and don't deserve to win, you will behave like no one.
100%.
But I didn't understand that. I didn't. So after being married for several years to my wife and going through this cyclical pattern of hitting a certain level of success and then tearing it all back down, I really began to get depressed and discouraged why I kept doing this. And 2016 was a very cataclysmic year for me because I was living in an RV with my wife and 3 kids, a very small RV in South Texas, making just enough money to be broke. I remember sitting down at that little table to do the finances once a month with my wife, and it was like either food or pay bills, like,
Okay.
and I would watch my wife cry, and I got T-boned by a semi that year and almost killed. Remember, so much happened that year, and I remember myself crying myself to sleep at night because her parents have always been successful. Her father's a lineman, works for the power company. He's been there 40 plus years. He's got $500,000 in a 401k. Guy makes $45 an hour. They always have nice property, nice things. Like they're successful, and I wanted to provide that for my wife, but there was such this level of lack of certainty in my own ability and my own self, and it would constantly creep up and manifest itself through behaviors. Well, 2016 was that cataclysmic year where I actually started venturing into the personal growth and development genre.
Okay.
Like, not just faith, not just church, not just
Yes.
religion, but I needed some answers. This was part of me that wasn't being addressed. So I'm talking about the Tony Robbins stuff. I'm talking about psychology, understanding neural pathway development, understanding confidence building, understanding what self-limitation and self-sabotage really is at the psychological level. Getting you a lot of really good stuff. And the first podcast I found was a podcast called Knowledge for Men by this guy, Andrew Farabee. And he would have these guys come on as guests, similar to what you and I are doing now, would interview them and unpack their backstory. And I began to hear these stories of guys that were homeless and addicted to drugs that went on to become the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, or guys that were living in their car on Skid Row, went on to start a supplements business that did 7 figures. And I was blown away with this concept that there were many, many people out there that had been broken and grew up tragic, but they turned it all around and made something. This is like this epic final story where everything turns, like your typical Disney movie where the slipper fits, and you know what I mean? And
yes,
it's
I do.
Yeah.
Born
exactly.
again type thing.
Yeah, and I wanted a piece of that. So I began to study and learn all this stuff and went dark, so to speak. I went dark, and I wasn't really talking to nobody. I moved my family to North Dakota, started working in the oil field, started climbing the ranks, started listening to a bunch of podcasts, audiobooks, reading books, all of this stuff, and eventually got to the place where I was so full, I was like a sponge. If anybody at work or like at a family gathering would like just touch me, this stuff would bleed out of me like a sponge. You barely touch me and because it revolutionized everything. Like I said, I went from the homeless guy addicted to drugs to a little bit better, living in an RV with my wife and kids, broke, having a family, not being addicted to drugs, to all of a sudden 6-figure income, through the ranks at work, published author, successful podcaster, public speaking engagements, like all over the country kind of thing. And I was like, wow, like anybody can get there. So helping men understand that they're not broken permanently. They were just broke in their youth and adolescence, and providing tips, tactics, and strategies to men on how to recover from that and build that amazing life that they know they want for themselves and their loved ones. That's what Apex Masculinity is. That's
amazing.
Yeah,
like, and I know you've given a very short sort of, version of your story, but it's inspirational. I mean, I had goosebumps when you were saying, when you were listening to that podcast, were men who have gone from, living on the streets to then doing, 7 figures or whatever it is that they're doing successful. And it's important to know that no matter where you're at in your life, and I believe no matter what age you are, you can turn your life around completely. And as you said, it comes down to our programming, and we can reprogram ourselves. So, a lot of your programming was from an abusive household, and the beliefs that you formed about yourself were formed from that childhood. And even if people haven't experienced abuse as a child, many of us have experienced, some shit. back there, and that forms the beliefs of who we are. And when you can reprogram yourself and look at your beliefs and change your beliefs about yourself, you can create whatever it is you want in your life. But I also want to touch on what you said is, like, you went into this dark space, and I think that's really important too, because a lot of people think that when they're starting to turn their life around, it's going to be all, you know, rainbows and butterflies or love and light or whatever people think it's going to be. But actually, to turn your life around, you have to deep dive into the darkness first, to come out the other side and then find some balance between the light and the dark. And I think that's really important. So
yeah, no, that was a very critical season during all of that personal growth and development. It was like there were two towers being built at the same time, the worst of me and the best of me. You know, constantly like trying to topple over on the other one and stuff. And so yeah, it's so weird when I look back at that. That was the greatest season of growth for me. But at the same time, that season was also jam-packed with these like harrowing failures and relapses, moments of regret and stuff like that. I tell men it's like a battle, your substandard man versus your apex man, and they're both fighting for domination. They both want to win. And in order to land punches on someone during a fight, you have to be close enough to get punched. And when you are doing this work, you're going to kick your own ass more than once. And I think, well, guys think, oh, I started my personal growth and development journey and it just skyrocketed. And it was like you said, rainbows and butterflies.
All amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. From that moment forward, it's like, nah, dude, it's like trench warfare.
It really is.
Yeah, there are two men living inside each of us, and they are both hell bent for domination and control.
Yes.
And yeah, it's about, but you will see like years will go by, 5 years, 6, 8, 10, whatever, and you'll look back and you'll remember where you were. Like for me, I don't even recognize myself. Like I was like with drool in my beard, like under a bridge with track marks up and down both my arms, like
wow.
no friends, no family. I'd burnt every bridge. Like now to be doing what I'm doing and married 17 years and a family, kids, all this stuff, it's like yeah, it's a wonderful thing. And
amazing.
I think the biggest thing that guys and gals, whoever's doing a personal development journey, is to understand, because I know there's going to be ladies that listen to this. I don't want to exclude them or isolate them. And I know there's going to be guys listening to this that I want to get touched and helped, but I also know there's going to be ladies that listen to this because they follow you and they're going to hear this stuff and go, oh my God, that's my husband. He needs to hear this. Right. Okay. Yeah. It's the truth though.
It's
like
I've
had ladies reach out to me and like, oh, your podcast is awesome. I gave it to my husband. I go, okay, that's perfect. That's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to help where we can. But having guys begin to learn that there is a process to build back your confidence. It starts by what we talked about, listening to content on a daily basis that's going to inflame and incite this desire within each of us to want to be a better person, but also provide strategies on how to get there. Because the reason I was a failure for so long in life is because I grew up in a home where I was told that. So the neural pathways of my brain had developed a belief system that I was no one. So the first step is we got to rewire that whole mindset. So you have to be in an environment where you are absorbing content, whether it's, like I said, audiobooks, podcasts, reading books, you know, networking with the right crowd of people where you're actually interacting, new friends, all of that stuff. And your mind is being fed new content that's beginning to create a new story in your own head. It's like a forest trail. When you walk them, they become well defined. And that was my childhood. But if you'll just get off of those and start creating new ones, the grass will grow over the old ones as we frequent them less and less. And we will no longer use those old pathways. We will start to make decisions based on these new ones. So understanding how to build your confidence back. A key one for me, Rihanna, was understanding my own biology. Now I want to really touch on this for a second, if we could, because
I was going to ask about the masculinity side of things as well. So
okay, right. So, like, for example, we've all heard this phrase, well, he's just going through a midlife crisis. What does that mean? Why does a guy hit 30, 35, 45, and then all of a sudden it's like he's lost half of his manhood? He's a shell of his former self. He's He's depressed. He's discouraged. He's in a place of regret all the time. He's analyzing all the decisions, wishing he would have went further in life, feeling stuck, all of this loss of ambition. When you understand the biology of a man, you'll understand that about the age of 30, we start losing testosterone.
Okay.
And this is directly tied to your dopamine. They are synaptic, they are connected, and dopamine is your happy chemical that your body naturally creates. So when you start losing testosterone, it starts to affect your dopamine production, and men start finding it more difficult to just be positive. They don't understand why. Why am I so negative? Why am I snapping at my wife? Why am I snapping at my kids? Why do I feel like a failure? Why does nothing give me joy in life? When you understand, oh, well, I'm 45 and I've been losing 1 to 3% of testosterone for the last 15 years, which means I could be making a third less of my man chemical, my testosterone.
Yeah.
That's why I'm struggling. And now you have information that's going to help give you tools. Information always transfers into tools for success. So when I realized this, I'm like, okay. And then another thing my wife said, she goes, did you know, she was doing research for me. She's like, did you know that kids that had ADHD when they were younger struggle to produce healthy amounts of dopamine when they get older as adults? So now I've got two things attacking me, fighting dopamine production, making me more susceptible to be negative and depressed from a physiological place and a biological place. It's not even psychological. It's my body.
Your body.
Doing this.
Yeah.
So now I'm aware of this. So now what can I do? I now have information. I'm gonna transfer that into tools. So I started getting back into the gym religiously, like 3 times a week, because when you exercise, it causes the body to begin to promote testosterone production.
Yeah.
So now my testosterone levels started coming back, and I was instantly in a better place. Like sunlight affects vitamin D, which affects testosterone, which affects dopamine, all of this stuff. So when you begin to learn not only the psychology of your past and how you were broken and how to fix your own psychology, but you understand your biology and certain vitamins and minerals you can take, more sunlight, more direct sunlight, an exercise regimen, accelerated heart rate, all these things to get testosterone and dopamine and serotonin levels back up. I found myself on cloud 9. I was like the happiest person, like almost annoyingly happy, like the drunk guy that gets people happy at the party. Everybody's like, calm down with this happiness.
Back to the Disney movie again.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but I felt great as a man, and it just boggles my mind because I'm watching these guys. They hit 30. They don't exercise.
Yeah.
They're 60 pounds overweight.
Yeah.
They eat garbage. America is notorious for shit food, Rihanna. I don't know.
Look, Australia is no different, to be honest.
Yeah, it's bad here, man. So we are pumping all of this shit, if I can say that, into ourselves and not doing anything to physically help ourselves succeed. You lose your ambition. You don't want to build anything. You don't want to do anything. You don't want to be a better husband.
No.
You don't want to be a better father. You don't want to eliminate debt and amass wealth. You don't want to do anything successful in life because the ambition is draining out of you. So that's
you need to feel good in your body, like particularly as a man. You know, you need to be doing things. You need to be outside. You need to be going to the gym or whatever it is that's physical activity for you to get your body feeling good. And honestly, like, it's different for women, but women need to feel good in their body too. And I think just generally, you know, in society, most of us are, you know, a lot of us are overweight and lazy. And well, like, I've been through periods where I've done not a lot. And like when I, you know, even as a woman, just sitting on the couch or whatever it is, just sitting around, not doing a lot, it's like everything else is just shit as well, because it's like, oh, you know, I don't feel good. So the rest of my life is a reflection of who I am. And, you know, I think it's important for everyone to get out there, but particularly for men, for the testosterone to actually be lifting some weights or doing something. Chopping some wood. Get the axe out. Go out there and chop some trees or something.
Direct sunshine and just accelerated heart rate are huge factors. Plus, as you watch your body, like, I'm not bragging here. I mean, it's Zoom and people can't see, but in the last 2.5 years, Rihanna, I'm ripped. Like I'm just,
That's so awesome. I'm sure
I
your
went,
wife is impressed.
dude, I get second looks going down the hallway. You know how like someone looks and then they look away and then they look back like, damn,
That
like
is good. See, and you need that. You need
that's
that in your
after,
relationship. After
yeah,
17 years, if she's doing that after 17
yes.
years, Nick, like that is amazing. So go
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, no, it's good. You feel better about the way you look. You feel better about the way you feel.
Yes.
When you walk into a room, you command presence. Before you even speak, people look and go, this guy's on top of it. Just by looking at him, you can tell he's taking care of
Yeah.
himself. He's on the ball. And it changes the dynamic of your interactions with people. People listen
Mm,
to you,
I do.
respect you. This obviously feeds your self-confidence because
Yep.
now you're this type of guy that when you walk in a room, people are looking to you for answers and looking
Mm.
to you for guidance. So everything stacks on itself. Absolutely.
It's a loop, and like you were saying, you need to feel good about yourself. It's the way you hold yourself. If you don't feel good, you sort of slump. You don't feel good. You hide in the
Mhm.
corners. You sort of you just tuck yourself away. But if you feel good about yourself and your body, you stand tall and you're able to be more confident. So I think that's great.
Yeah.
And what did you say that I wanted to touch on? I think what you've said there in that last part particularly is information is and knowledge is important. So, you don't just accept things for the way they are. A lot of people are like, yeah, I'm just getting old, so of course I'm going to be unhappy, or of course I'm going to get depressed at some point. I think it's bullshit. Like, it doesn't matter what age you are. If you know your body and you know how it works and you know the mind, you can maneuver your way through anything. Yes, you might still have low periods or you might have, something go on, and that's okay. But knowing that you can get through it by changing your lifestyle, just it doesn't have to be huge changes for a lot of people either. Like, small changes can make huge difference. And I think most of us these days just want the quick fix. We want a pill, or we want someone to say, do this and you'll be better. Sorry,
Mhm.
you have to do the hard work. Like, you have to, actually do something about it, whether it be mind, body, soul. You have to do something about it. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I think that's good. But is there anything else, Nick, particularly around masculinity? And I know you said you work specifically with men, because as I said, masculinity is something that I hold dear to my heart talking about.
Yeah.
Is there
Mhm.
anything else about masculinity for men? You're here to inspire men to be better men, which includes embracing their masculinity. Is there anything else about masculinity or what the work you do with men that you want to share?
You have 3 days?
Yeah. Hey, we can do a whole 3-day thing if you want. I'd love that. Maybe we can do a
um,
workshop for 3 days online. That'd be cool.
dude, that would be awesome. That would be so cool, man.
I'll
You put
write
it
that
together.
down and we'll talk about that
Yeah,
another time.
you put it together, I'll be there. No,
All
I
right.
know, running up against the clock with the time that we
That's
have, I
okay.
do want to touch on a couple other things.
Yep.
Once you get to the place, like it's almost starts out as a selfish work. Like, I got to get my mentality, my headspace, and my physiology under control. Not perfect, but at least to a point where I can see progression.
Yeah.
Like, I'm doing the work to become a better person to myself. Once you get to that place and some confidence is being built, that's just the first step. If you're married, masculinity in marriage is huge. If you have
Mm,
kids, masculinity and fatherhood is huge.
yeah.
If you are steeped in financial debt because of impulsive living or just being lazy and undisciplined, masculinity and money, this is huge.
Yeah.
So your career as a man, like, are you just showing up, going through the motions? Like, are you advancing through the ranks? Do you have any desire to contribute more? Like, I meet so many people, it's just, I'm here for a paycheck, and they take no sense of pride from their work,
Mm,
which I do. Like, I'm very competitive that way, to where I stand out at work. You know what I
yep.
mean? And of course, and I know it sounds arrogant, and I don't mean for it to do that, but like, every job that I get, man, I end up making more money. Like, I end up
Yep.
making more money, more privilege, more responsibility, all that stuff. And that blesses my family. That blesses me. And so, as it relates to marriage, if guys are getting to that place where they're like, man, I had this wake up call, I need to become a better man, I need to be a better husband, I just want to encourage guys that understanding your wife and communicating with your wife is so key. We live in a very distracted time
Yep.
where it's easy to veg out on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, social media, Snapchat, all these things, video games, all this stuff. And you end up having two people live in the same home, but they're drifting apart from each other,
Yep.
right? And what my wife and I noticed, we've had some very, very good Sunday morning coffee. I call them business meetings, but they're not business meetings.
Yeah, that's good.
I realized that my wife and I, after 17 years, really just finally got past this honeymoon phase where it's time to start working on our marriage rather than just coasting.
After
So,
17 years.
dude, we're both easy keepers. We've
That's
never had to
amazing.
yeah, and this last year we both realized that like we wanted more from the
Okay.
other person, and like I wanted to connect with my wife more. My wife wanted more stability from me and all this. So you begin to communicate with your spouse and understand them, and I learned that stability is very important for my wife. If I am mentally unstable, stressed out, anxiety, if I'm throwing out all these ideas, well, we'll, move here and go there and buy this business, like, and I put too much out there by way of confusion,
Yeah.
or moving all the time, or just whatever the case may be, I create a sense of instability in my home. Women naturally need stability. They want a safe cave to live in,
Yes.
right? And when a guy's not that way, it messes with her psychology to the point where she can lose respect and ultimately lose attraction for her husband. So she'll still love him, he'll still love her, but this now begins to affect how much you like that person.
100%. And I can talk from experience with this one. It's like when you don't feel completely safe in your home or financially because of someone else that you're with, the man, it's like in my situation, I had to step up and essentially be the man in that space. I had to take control of finances, and I had to make sure that everything was running smoothly, because I had no trust for the other person in that space, and that made me lose respect, and eventually not like him.
Yeah,
So,
and we won't stay here too long, but I
no.
want to ask this, and this is for the guys listening. When you begin to lose respect and lose attraction because of losing respect, did or did that not affect your bedroom and your romance?
Oh, it all went
Yeah,
downhill from there. Like,
yeah,
if there's no respect, there's no want to
yeah,
sexually engage at all. And
absolutely.
it's a downward slope, and you can still engage, but it's not. There's no desire there. And I'm
Yeah,
speaking from my experience, but it is something that for women, they need to feel safe to engage. So
yes,
yeah.
absolutely. So I guess where I was going with that was I got to this place where I was tired of um I know you're a man and you need it, so all right, let's do it kind of romantic encounters,
Yes.
to this passionate, intimate, almost like shuddering exchange of souls in the
Yes.
moment.
Beautiful.
And
Yeah.
I would talk to my wife about this. I'd be like, I'm looking for something more in this area, and I had to be honest with myself and realize that there have been times over the years where I have checked out as a man. I didn't abandon my family, but I just got stuck in a weird place in my own head,
Yep.
and I withdrew. And when I withdraw and I'm not conveying a vision of stability and success, it affects my wife. So now the interactions and the reciprocating affection that I'm looking for
You don't
is
care.
no longer there. But for every man listening, your wife is a mirror to yourself.
Yeah.
So if I'm seeing something in her that I don't like, I have to go back to myself and go, what am I cultivating in this relationship that's causing my wife to act and react with me in these ways that I don't like? So, like, it goes deep. And as it relates to fatherhood, there's an ancient proverb that goes, give me one second, provoke not a child to wrath, but raise them up in nurture and admonition. That's a piece of it.
Beautiful.
And what that means to me is we live in an age where we want to discipline and correct behaviors, but nobody is developing relationship.
Yeah.
So remember this one, guys. Rules without relationship will always breed rebellion. Any child not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. If you don't have a relationship with your kids and you're just correcting and disciplining, you're going to drive their hearts away, and they're going to do anything just to get some kind of reaction and interaction, even if it's negative. So I had to stop and analyze my kids and go, why am I getting these results from my kids? Why are they behaving like this? And again, children are a mirror unto the man. If I see something I don't like in my kids, then what am I doing wrong or right to bring out that action or reaction? So it's a deep journey, and it requires work, and it requires honesty. It requires all of these different factors. If you want your wife to open up and flourish fully in her femininity, you have to be stable and strong and reverberate that masculine strength and power, not in an angry, fist pounding, I'm the leader of this home, but you almost become a servant leader in the sense that your life is now on the altar for your wife and kids to succeed. And they feel that, they know that. Even there's an old country song in America called Daddy's Hands. I don't know if you've ever heard it.
No.
Daddy's Hands.
Daddy's Hands.
Daddy's hands were soft and kind when I was crying. Daddy's hands were hard as steel when I'd done wrong. You can still be a disciplinarian, you can still bring correction, but they have to know that they're loved. They have to know they're supported. And if you just yell at them into your room and there's no redemptive discipline where you go back and sit at their bedside and tell them, look, I love you, I'm behind you, I believe in you, you did this, we had to handle it this way, but it's over. Like, you're good with me, I'm good with you. The child knows, okay, no matter what happens, dad is always behind me. Yes. Now you have their hearts in your hand. And when you get your wife's heart and you get your children's heart in your hand because they know that they're safe with you and that you're living your life, you're spending yourself for their best, for their benefit, man, your kids will behave. They're not going to be perfect.
No.
But you'll extract the best from them. What you're looking for by way of intimate connection, passion, loyalty, all that stuff from your wife, like all of those things tie into you being a strong, grounded, self-mastered man. And then
it's speaking to my heart here. Like, I'm just like, oh my God. Like, yes, everyone needs to listen to this. 100%, Nick. It all comes down to everyone is a mirror. You said that, the people in your life are a mirror. And if you don't like something, what people often do, and we see it on social media all the time, is just blame everyone else or completely shut down and say, all women are like this, or all women, I'm staying away from all women because they've had a shitty experience. But actually look at your part that you've played in that relationship and start to change yourself. And then you'll find that the women around you that you attract as a man also are showing up very differently. And that goes for women as well. If you're attracting men or anyone else in your life that you don't like the behavior of, what is it within you that you can change so that people's behaviors or the people that show up in your life are different. And, I've done a lot of work around this myself, and I didn't know what masculinity was until I actually started to do the work on myself to return to the feminine. And then when I started to meet masculine men, it's like, oh shit, that's what it is. And wow, why didn't I do this before? And it wasn't the men's fault. It was me and how I was showing up in relationships and in my life, really. So it goes both ways. Change how you show up, change how you feel about yourself, change, get more comfortable in your natural essence, whether it be masculine or feminine, and watch as the people in your life, including your children and your partner, show up differently. So, oh my God, yes.
I want to encourage men that if you come to this realization, you're like, okay, this all makes sense. I'm ready to start this journey. I have the courage to start it, and I have the intellectual prowess to study and investigate and be teachable and study this. Just because you made the decision to change it does not mean that tomorrow your wife is going to fall madly in love with you and yield herself to your masculine power, because from experience, the times that I've gone into a depressive state, or mostly what it is guys wish that they would have accomplished more with their lives, and they feel stuck, so they begin to check out or whatever the case or excuse may be. And my wife has had to wear both of those hats in the 17 years that we've been married, my wife has had to be mom, dad, manage the money, homework, manage the kids, keep the house clean, even go have a job and be a breadwinner and stuff and all this. And once women get a hold of that, and I don't want to say that they don't want to let it go because they love the power and the control, but basically
sometimes we do.
Yeah, my lack of being a strong, grounded man at times forced my wife to like assume that role.
Yes.
And now my wife has created a sense of security for herself, knowing no matter what he's doing, I got this.
Yes.
And that's not something very easily that anybody, a man or a woman, would want to let go. So it takes time to build back to that place where your wife lets herself go into your masculine embrace and lets you control everything, so to speak. And
I feel like on that, Nick, it's about building trust again. So, your wife in that, she probably at one point, even though she still loved you, there was, and I'm speaking from my experience, it's just that there's a lack of trust. Can I let go of this job and actually still be safe? Because in the past, I haven't been able to. And even, as a man, it's like you have to show for a certain period, and that period can be different for every woman, that you are trustworthy again, and that you have got her back again, and that you have got the finances again, and all that stuff. It just takes time. For any men listening, if you're in that space, just keep going, because you can gain her trust again. And it's not just her words when she says she trusts you, it's how she feels in here. I could say I trust someone, but do I feel it here? And that's a different level of trust. So it just takes time.
Yeah, it's almost a double-edged sword, because there's times when I get very Sigmund Freud in my thinking and I overthink things, and I'm thinking, on the one hand, I want my wife and kids to be very independent if they ever needed to be. But now I'm trying to be the masculine leader in my home, and I got a bunch of people in this house that don't need me, and they know it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's like, hey, wait, you got to give that back. I just let you held that for a minute so that if something ever happened to me, you'd be okay. But now you have to give that back, right? So,
but I think there's other ways that you can be needed as a man, and honestly, as a woman, I'm single at the moment, but I have done it all.
Not for long.
I've been the woman that's done it all, and I can do it all, and I've been independent. But when you actually work on your femininity as a woman, it's like, well, fuck, I'd actually like to step back for a while and just say, it's all you do it. I'm happy to be the woman for a while. So, as a woman, if you do the work to return to the feminine, it is actually nice to have a man. It doesn't mean that you can't do whatever you want to do. You can still have a job, you can still do whatever, but you can actually lean on him as well and say, I trust you, you've got this. I'm here as well. So it's a partnership, I believe. So
absolutely. Yeah. Good stuff, man.
Well, thank you. It's been a lot of fun, very inspirational. So thank you for sharing a little bit about your journey and what you do with men. So if there's men listening and they resonate with you, Nick, what can they do to work with you or to connect with you? Like, what do you offer? I don't even know, actually. I know you've got a book.
Yeah. So Apex Masculinity, Defeat Self-Sabotage, Reclaim True Manhood is out. You can find it anywhere, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. I don't even know what big bookstores you guys have over there. I'd love to get in over there. It just seems like a daunting task because I'm not boots on the ground over there. But the book is out. I got about 4 to 6 months for the next book. Okay. I'm feverishly working to get this thing out, and it's going to be the gem of my existence here.
Beautiful.
But I wanted to go a little bit deeper into specific topics like fatherhood, parenting, different things like that.
Amazing.
And money making and career advancement and things like that. But the podcast is where guys can connect with me super easy.
Okay.
Apex Masculinity Podcast. It's on Spotify. It's on iTunes, Podbean, pretty much anywhere podcasts are, you can find it. And I basically do what we're doing right now. I find experts in the space of personal growth and development. I've had several ladies on. I recently had a lady who is it was kind of funny. She's an erotic blueprints relationship coach. And she helps older couples that have lost the flame in the bedroom kind of get that back. I've had military guys on, I've had life coaches on, I've had business people on, all of that stuff. And I just basically extract from them what's wrong with masculinity, how do you see it, and what are some steps that men can take to get themselves grounded and get things back on track again. And it's been such a fun journey. I've met people on the podcast that I've ended up doing personal growth and development workshops and seminars with.
Yeah.
Like the relationships that have been built and forged out of this journey have just been amazing. And the website, if guys want to check out apexmasculinity.com, I got a website up. They can kind of see the book, the podcast, coaching programs we do there. So yeah, I'm not too hard to find.
I love it. So I'll put that in, if I can link it, I'll link it and send them your way. So thank you so much, Nick. I hope everyone enjoys this episode. I know I did. And I look forward to a workshop with you down the track.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're ever looking for guests, I have a file cabinet, and I'm thinking of like 3 to 5 guys right now that you'd absolutely having a good conversation with.
Amazing.
That would bring powerful content to your listening audience. So
yeah, if you can send it my way, that'll be great. I'll stop it right there. So thank you for listening again. And please reach out to Nick and listen to his podcast or check out his book if it is of interest to you. Thanks, Nick.